Today we are faced with an authentic prodigy of 17th century painting, a St. Andrew by the great Giovan Francesco Barbieri, universally known as Guercino. A painting that for centuries remained almost buried, covered by a thick and yellowed varnish that obscured its original light and colors. A masterpiece that the dust of history had made unrecognizable, and that only recently, thanks to the research and foresight of scholars such as Gianluca Forgione, Massimo Pullini, and Daniele Benati, has returned to reveal itself in all its extraordinary pictorial power. The work is an oil on canvas of about 140 x 110 centimeter, depicting the Apostle Andrew with his characteristic decussate cross on his shoulders. A cross that is not only an instrument of martyrdom, but a symbol of profound devotion and authentic mystical embrace. The saint, with his thick reddish beard and his eyes turned to the sky, seems almost enraptured by a direct dialogue with the divine. His face expresses an intense spirituality, made even more engaging by the slight strabismus that Guercino, with his vibrant brushstroke, transforms into a touch of profound humanity.
Just think, this work, like a noble pilgrim, has traveled through the centuries, undergoing movements, changes of ownership, sometimes poorly documented passages of collectors, and finally, the greatest shame, oblivion. An oblivion that has caused the traces of its importance, of its autograph, to be lost. Even the invisible signature of the master had been eclipsed behind a dark and approximate restoration. Nonetheless, Guercino, with his unmistakable painting, has continued to send signals to the most attentive. The luminosity of the purple cloak, the extraordinary rendering of the hands, the delicacy of the draperies, the monumental cut of the figure in the foreground.
Then, as in a novel, it was enough to remove that old, heavy, oxidized varnish to reveal a universe of nuances. The chromatic texture typical of Guercino, the control of the lights, as Sir Denis Mann said in 1988 in front of our Guercino's fruit cellar in Bologna, suggested by Federico Zeri, that ripple the forehead and the folds of the dress, and the vibrant tones of green and purple red that stand out against the brown preparation. And what about the landscape in the background, with its turreted fortification, and those clouds that gather as if to suggest an imminent storm? It is a landscape piece, perhaps intentionally left at a level of poetic sketch, but which enriches the composition with an intensely suggestive atmosphere.
To complete the panorama of our recent discoveries, I would like to mention another pearl of Guercino, the Saint Sebastian. This work, also an oil on canvas, stands out for its exceptional executive quality and for the full autograph of the master. In it we find the same harmonious colors that characterize the St. Andrew, the skies that fade into warm and velvety tones, the flesh tones that reflect an intense and dramatic light, and the perfect balance between light and shadow, capable of giving the martyr, depicted full length with his hands tied, an expression of confident suffering and heroic sweetness. The contrast between the landscape at sunset and the figure of the saint reinforces its emotional and stylistic value, further confirming the unmistakable chromatic mark of Guercino.
From a historical point of view, thanks to the documents in Guercino's Libro dei Conti, it has been possible to connect this St. Andrew to the commission of the Carmelite father Alberto Massari, General of the Order in 1642-1643, whose personal devotion and even his baptismal name, Andrea, may have inspired the choice of the subject. The work would then have arrived in Rome, perhaps at the convent of Santa Maria in Traspontina, and would later have been part of the collections of the Colonna Princes of Pagliano in Piano di Sorrento, before arriving in recent times on the antiques market, and finally in the Altomani collection, where it is found today.
Why is it a masterpiece? Just look at the solidity of the figure, the sweetness with which Guercino models the volumes with warm and enveloping strokes of light, the spiritual intensity of the face that speaks of faith and mystical abandonment. And yet, until recently, it was considered a painting of uncertain quality, perhaps a copy, perhaps a secondary work. But one detail, the line of the sky, the expressive force of the hands, was enough to reveal the hand of the master from Cento. This is the charm of the history of art, its power to give us back, with a twist, a fragment of a forgotten past. It is as if the canvas, awakened from sleep, still spoke to us of that 17th century moment when Guercino's brushstroke, rapid and soft, impregnated the fabric of a sacred and human story, of a pathos that moves even the contemporary observer. Today, the St. Andrew is no longer an enigma, but a protagonist. The restoration has brought the colors back to their original brilliance, enhancing the master's refined palette. The rigor of the scientific attribution places it among the most precious works of the mature Guercino, and we can finally admire it for what it is, an authentic jewel, re-emerged from the shadow of time,